He's a presumptive presidential nominee of the Grand Old Party, but all that glitters is not gold-plated for Donald Trump. His political pivot, his tax returns, and his mouth all causing worry in the GOP. Tonight, we analyze. Then, the transgender bathroom debate. The Obama administration ordering schools to protect the rights of the trans students. But are people and schools ready for that change? And later, Chris Christie, Andrew Cuomo, Bill de Blasio, all under fire, all for different reasons. And at this point, all for things done by their aides, allegedly. Associates, others, but not necessarily them. Tonight we'll ask, where ought the buck stop when scandal only comes close to the top? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We're going to get into all those issues, plus a powerful new film here, a documentary from a person following the mass shootings in this country, but the take on it and the sound attached to it, something you haven't heard before. That coming up later in the program. But first to politics. The remaking of Donald Trump's presidential push seems about as hard to pin down as the Donald himself. Now, yesterday, Trump, he met with House Speaker Paul Ryan, as we told you, trying to unite the party. But Trump's comment that all his policy ideas, including banning Muslims from entering the country, are just quote-unquote suggestions, have left a whole lot of people wondering just how serious Trump is about messaging, let alone party unity. Now that, plus his Taco Bowl treat, his fight with Elizabeth Warren, saying the U.S. can renegotiate its debt, just stuff from the past week, have prompted many to question how effective his campaign pivot has really been. And then, of course, those tax returns. And I'm telling you, this will only become a bigger issue. Trump continues to insist he will not release those returns till an audit is completed, leading to this very testy exchange with George Stephanopoulos on GMA this morning.
The audit is no excuse. The IRS has made it very clear that an audit is not a bar to public release. It is entirely your choice. President Nixon, Richard Nixon, released his tax returns even though he was under audit. And when you were seeking a casino license in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, you released the returns to the state officials even though you were under audit.
I am under audit now, and as soon as the audit ends, I'll release my returns. It's a very simple thing.
Sir,
people are going to learn nothing. You know, I put in financials, 100 pages worth of financials that show that I built a company that's worth more than $10 billion. It shows cash, it shows cash flows, it shows everything. You learn very little from tax returns.
What is your tax rate?
It's none of your business. You'll see it when I release.
Never dull. All right, for more, let's bring in our panel right now. Phil Reisman, columnist with the Journal News, never short of opinions, as is Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent, and Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. You know, there's so much that he gives that it's almost too much. We haven't even gotten to the wave of negative ads, negative stories that will come out from the Oppo research team in Hillary land here. But I maintain, of all the stuff he said, and we'll get to some of the crazy stuff, Phil, those tax returns, there's a reason he hasn't released them.
Well, you know, I have a theory about this. And my theory is that everything with him has to be big. Right? The hands, the buildings, the whole deal, right? So he's probably worried. I don't know what you think, Dominic, but I think he's worried that these tax returns are going to show that he's not worth $10 billion, that he's probably got, you know, debt up to here, and he probably isn't worth as much as he says he is. It's very important to him, right?
He's got some accounts in the Caymans or whatever else.
Well, that may be too.
Yeah,
I don't think he cares about that stuff.
He did deny that, though, in the
He didn't say he had, with him you got to be careful. He didn't say he had a Swiss bank account. That doesn't mean he doesn't have something money stocked away somewhere else.
I think he said he didn't have any offshore accounts, but, I mean, who knows?
Yes.
But, Richard, I don't think he cares if that kind of thing comes
He worries
out.
that he's not, that the myth won't myth the reality.
Exactly. That's my guess.
What do you think, Andrew? Paul Ryan, they do the photo op and everything else. He gets in a room with other Republican leaders, let alone the money folks. Are they most nervous that something's going to come out and it's going to expose here that there's a lot of the fraud attached to it, it's not real? Or do you think the bigger worry is from day to day, he doesn't tweak a position? Hardline positions that arguably he got the base to go along with are now, well, suggestions. Who's he going to pick for a Supreme Court nominee if he got elected? What's his position going to be on the tax code? What's his position going to be on immigration? What's his position going to be? But you can go up and down the list. None of these are inconsequential. Are they more concerned they don't know who he is this late in the game, or that he's going to implode with stuff we either learn or otherwise?
I think they're afraid of both. I think, look, with the exception of 4 or 5 key points that he hits, Donald Trump seems to be the kind of guy who says whatever he thinks the room he's in wants to hear. He doesn't like being unpopular in the room. And with the exception of a few fights that he wants to pick in advance, he has that tendency. So, you know, if I was in the House room yesterday with Paul Ryan and Donald Trump, I'd be wondering if I could believe anything that was coming out of his mouth. I think they're also afraid, not necessarily of a meltdown, but of an electoral meltdown, that he's going to get just whomped in the general election, and that'll be a drag on their races and the races for the Senate.
You know, one of the things I noticed this morning, I watched that interview that he had with Stephanopoulos live, and at one point he went after him saying, by the way, we all know that you work for the Clintons so that no one can trust you anyway. He went there, right? So, but I at least think, Dom, it was better for him. As much as he complained about having 17 people in a Republican field, he's great at deflecting and avoiding it or going off in some tangent. When he's the only guy and the attention's focused on him, it's harder for him to avoid all the questions and not answer the stuff, and he doesn't like it.
It's irrelevant. I hate to say it, being a journalist, this with his base, and I know we're moving beyond his base now. His base doesn't care what we think. Let's start it with me as a journalist. But Richard,
Wait, time. Okay. I hear you. But if he built this facade that he's this billionaire, it turns out that he ain't worth a fraction of what he says.
What I was about
now
to go to, the tax return is a different issue. I agree with what's been said. We already know what's in it. You don't need somebody to tell.
Oh, you know what's in it.
No.
Maybe we know. We think we know what's in it. A lot of those people think that he's the most successful businessman in America.
Exactly. Well, if that's what they think, then, then I'm willing to sell them the Brooklyn Bridge because we know that he's going. We know that he's going to be worth maybe 20% of what he's talked about.
That's very charitable.
Okay, and we also know. I mean, come on, that he pays very little, if any, taxes. So he's going to be exposed.
Yeah.
Right, but when we find out that perhaps he's paying less taxes than the average person in terms of a percentage-wise, how is it going to play?
Okay. Now, there's also another potential liability out there for Trump, and that's the man himself. He keeps saying things that make voters either love him, as Dominic said, or detest him. And if you're in the middle out there, he's not doing himself any favors. Take a listen to this exchange with Stephanopoulos, as we mentioned this morning.
Then you said you would release your tax returns when Secretary Clinton released her email. She has turned over all the emails in her possession.
She didn't turn over all. There's plenty missing. I read yesterday where there are a lot of emails missing. I know she's a good friend of yours, and I know you worked for him, and you didn't reveal it.
Okay, fine. But listen to this one. This you can't make up. Today, the Washington Post, reported clips of a Trump PR man from the 90s named John Miller. Only John Miller sure sounded a whole lot like, well, you be the judge here. Here is this John Miller talking about the end of his or Trump's relationship with Marla Maples. Remember, this is supposed to be some PR guy.
He didn't want to make a commitment. He really thought it was too soon. He's coming out of a marriage that, and he's starting to do tremendously well financially. As you saw, he got his licenses 5-0 the other day, and totally unanimous.
Okay, now if that didn't sound Trumpy enough, here's Miller talking about the prenup agreements.
I can tell you this, just off the record, I mean, there's no way he gets married without a prenuptial agreement. Yeah. You understand that? Yeah. It was painful, but worked in the Ivana case.
And at one point, Mr. Miller refers to Trump's thoughts as his own, like this clip about rumors surrounding Trump and another woman.
Carla Brady, how important is she right now? Is she? Well, I think it's somebody that she's beautiful. I saw her once quickly, and she's beautiful and all. But I think that he's got a whole open field, really.
Yeah. He can't even stay in character. Now, he denies that's his voice. They've already got sound guys that have broken through it. They say it's him, whatever that's worth here. But
And Barbara Ress, who we had on the phone, or we had as a guest, the woman who worked for Trump at one point, says that she heard him use that name and another alias on phone calls in the past. So
There's a few giveaways in this. One is the bragging about all the girlfriends or all the girls that call him up for
There's
dates.
more. He goes, they throw
Yeah.
themselves at him. You
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
understand. I've seen it. They all throw themselves at him.
Exactly.
Yeah,
But if he can't cop to this, I mean, it would be pretty vain of him to have done this in the past. And granted, it is 20 years old, but why not just admit to it?
Well, don't
I
you
mean,
go by a fake name? I do.
yes, Carlos Danger.
Yeah, that's it. That's another topic.
What's
Right.
your code name, Dan?
I don't know, but I don't know. But why? I mean, listen, it's stupid. It's stupid.
Who does that?
But why would he cop to it? I mean, what would be the net gain of copying to it?
I guess so, but you know, it just says we don't know people who do this. I mean, would you ever like pretend you're your own PR guy
No.
and you can't even stay in character?
no,
You know?
no.
Wasn't he just kind of just goofing on them? I mean, I actually listened to the whole interview. I actually listened. It's 14 minutes long.
Really?
Yeah. And I got the impression that even the reporter kind of knew. I mean, didn't you get that feeling that she knew who she was talking to? She kept asking him, what jobs did you have
Guys,
before?
it's only May. Just think between now and November, the stuff that's going to come out.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up next, though, this less silly. It is not just an issue in North Carolina, the debate anymore. The White House has asked public schools to accommodate transgender students in bathrooms and locker rooms. So do critics have legitimate concerns? We'll talk about that and more after this.